Port Moody, the next contact event. Port Moody, November 1997, 20 years old. So Port Moody, so at this point, we're coming to the end of this period where I'm having these contact events. And this is number 7, right before the rising. All of these contact events happened in this area, majority of them anyway. 2 happened in Coquitlam, right by Mundy Park here. 1 happened down south in Langley. Another happened over in across over in Vancouver Island along the beach. I had 1 happen up here in Belcarra, and then the last one you just heard about was over here in Manikato Park. The next one will happen over here in Port Moody. So everything was outside in nature in the areas that I hung out as a 20-year-old and teenager. This is basically what I most likely was doing was coming from some bar, probably 1 or 2 in the morning. Not uncommon. I wasn't drinking or smoking pot or anything in these days. I was a very clean kid in school, actually, and I was often going downtown and watching bands. And I would normally come home this way, coming home along St. John's and then down here. And so I was coming down here, and I know in the memory it was very late at night, 1 or 2 in the morning, and yeah, I would have been coming down here. At some point, I turn, and I'm driving, and somewhere where I'm along here. While driving, I become the me that knows them. And so it's around here, and I'm driving, and I'm repeating to myself, "Grandma's calling, Grandma's calling," because the elder has this motherly feel, and she's older, and in the moment I was calling her grandma, so I was saying, "Grandma's calling, Grandma's calling, Grandma's calling," and I pulled over, and I knew to kind of pull over here on the road. I get out of the car, and I can feel the craft. I'm right about here, and I know the craft is there. I can't see it physically with my eyes, but I know it's there. And I can feel her. I can feel her, and I can feel the craft. And if you recall, she did this once before. She did this in my 3rd contact event, where she was held off, and she wanted me to kind of I guess psychically to kind of feel them. Because I can feel them, and I can feel them presently. I can feel them, and I can. So that's what she was kind of exercising. And before I travel, before I kind of need their help, even feeling like they're kind of guardian angels while I'm traveling and having these experiences while I'm out there on the road, she wants me to exercise that this is something that I can do, and I can feel them, especially when I'm maybe in a time of need. So she does that. She holds off, and I just know, so I'm waiting, and I know she's right there. I can also kind of hear like a low hum or something, like a small hummy buzz, and it's kind of just low, and I can hear it, and I'm certain that's the craft. I'm staring, and then the light comes down, and I'm in the craft right away. What I call this the elder's craft, because now when I'm traveling, I'll be repeatedly in some of the same crafts, and I'll be in this craft again more than once. And so this is the elder's craft. This I never see another being here. That's why I also call it hers. It seems like it's just her UFO, and she gets to control it. And so she's here, and I kind of materialize here, and she's here, and there she is. She says, "Hello, Jeff. Goodbye. We'll see each other again, but it will be after you made the change. Your time to rise is here. You've made it to the end of our plan, and of your plan with us, and you will be successful. Go on your way and live your life the way you were meant to." And I'm sad. I'm also sad, by the way. And I'm like, oh, like this is amazing. Like, I love this experience. This was an awesome time of my life. I can't believe it. And so anyway, I have sadness in me. And then she hands me this thing so it was on this table, and she hands it over to me. She seemed to want me to handle this. So I took it. And it looked like this. And it had these metal rings going up. There were holes. They were just like clear holes. When I turned it, I could see little globes or little spheres inside. And what's most of all is it wasn't just a physical artifact, but I began to realize the object was something. It was mystical. It contained energy or vibration. When I turned it and held it, it kind of evoked or emoted or communicated a feeling of an association, binding, or grouping. I could feel it had some kind of It was a consciousness. It itself was alive or something. It emoted something, and it was a consciousness device or something. I don't understand it fully, but I could feel it and I could understand it by holding it. And uh, once oh yeah, so that's happened. And then she says, I'm holding it, understanding I can feel these kind of bindings. She says, we belong to a federation of planets, and this symbolizes our grouping. The Federation is grateful for the work you have done with us. At that point, I understood that the rising that was about to occur wasn't just something between me and her, the elder, or me and the Greys as a race, but that other species were aware of it. And that, yeah, again, that the Greys are kind of just the face of it, that they were the ones doing the interactions and interacting with me directly, but really that there was kind of other layers or bureaucracy almost that understood or knew about what was occurring. And I felt great. I felt great pressure, actually. I felt pressure. I was like, whoa, like I kind of understood actually from that point onwards that this was larger than just something the Greys were doing. I have to admit, and I analyzed the crap out of that memory, and yeah, it does look like a Star Trek symbol. I don't understand it. I kind of wish that it didn't, but it does. It looks like a Star Trek symbol, and I don't understand why. And maybe I would have thought I've really screwed up my memory here, but it's almost a conspiracy for me that the Trump Space Force also has a crest like this, very similar. And for me, that makes me think there might be a conspiracy, that there actually is awareness about something like this in our higher governments, maybe, and they did that on purpose. I don't know. I don't fully understand it, but that is the memory, and this is exactly what I saw. I know I saw something like this. So while I was holding it, once she said that also, I realized that these metal rings with which I could see globes in were planets. And I could understand that when I turned it, that there were continents, and I could see little atmospheres. Like I could actually kind of see small, tiny details, and there were different sizes also. So there was larger ones and then tinier ones. And I'm not fully certain if they were actually organized, but into bigger and smaller groupings. But there was definitely different sizes going up the side of this object here. I then understood that the holographic spheres were planets, and I could see tiny details such as continents and atmospheres. The Federation object had depth. I could feel plans. I could feel written agreements. I could feel arrangements of planets that worked together. I could feel a recognition of differences too. This wasn't like, I don't know. I could understood that beings on other planets are actually all very different. They have different minds, and maybe to some degree that there's other, maybe even aggressive or just very different beings who humans might term off to be aggressive or bizarre or maybe horrible. And yet there was a recognition of like kind of trying to create unity, trying to create commonality amongst these different species. And that, yeah, so it contained a collective unity and values such as acceptance, respect, and kindness for all. I got the impression there was still leadership, hierarchies, and governments, but there was a balance and respect for communities. The feeling was wholesome, yet advanced. And yeah, if I went by the number of planets that I saw on this object, it looked to me like there were 30, it'd be somewhere in between 30 and 40 planets within our galaxy. And then maybe that was another part of it too. I understood this was galactic. I don't know. I didn't pick up any other feeling, but maybe I didn't understand that fully. I don't know. I didn't pick it up. But at the time, as I'm writing this, I'm realizing I thought this was galactic. It was planets within our galaxy, and that there were 30 to 40 planets with intelligent, advanced life within our own galaxy alone. That these beings at least interact with or involved with in some way. As I focused on individual planets, I could feel individual agreements. I could glimpse different agendas and different desires. I got it. I understood that the agreements worked as a binding to bring peace and sense of unity. There was regardless for how, it's basically like a jungle. Like a lion is still a part of the jungle, and even though it eats gazelles, there was still a sense of trying to create a jungle, trying to create a global or a unity, a sense of togetherness. Even though you might have varying different types of species that maybe don't look like they go together, but actually can try to work together in some kind of form. The specifics eluded my comprehension. It was also clear that these beings literally write out their agreements like lawyers or lawmakers do on our planet. When I looked at the gem at the top, it shimmered and it seemed intelligent. It kind of like looked at me and communicated in some weird way. It communicated a high command over the Federation. I got this understanding that there was some kind of control, and it seemed like artificial intelligence. It seemed like there was some kind of artificial intelligence that was in control of a lot of this stuff. And yeah, I was blown away. She also says, while I'm staring at it, we hope one day you all on Earth will fit into this. That is what we are trying to make happen. We want Earth to join our Federation, yet it is a slow-moving and intuitive process. And of course, again, I feel that pressure. For me, I'm hearing all this stuff, obviously it's going into my psyche, and I'm feeling pressure because I want to make sure my role as making this rising happen, but apparently all these beings are aware of now, is important. Like I feel the pressure as a 20-year-old. I want to make this work. So I'm so grateful. I just want it to work out well. She says, it does. The plans have been written, and this is the way it moves. And then for a moment, I'm like, do I get to keep this? I'm like, I get to, maybe I get to hold a souvenir, not realizing maybe how crazy that would be in real life. So I'm like, okay. And she says, give it back. And so I hand it back to her. She puts me in front of her. She kind of like holds me, or like puts my arms, grabs me by the arm, not grabs me, but centers me with her. And then she looks up at me. And then this thing comes out of her eye. This on her right side of her eye, it's this kind of like vortex pulls out of her eye, and it's spinning slightly, and it's shimmering light in the center. And she's kind of like bringing our minds together. I can feel that she's going deeper into my head. She's going deeper into, like, maybe this was for subconscious, or trying to go into the subconscious of my mind. But we're close too. I can feel her, and I'm actually very at peace from this process as I'm like going into this hypnotic thing. And she says, we need this from you. So I see an image. So it's everything that happens that's coming out of this eye are all images, and it's all going into my head and kind of deeper parts of my brain. I can feel it. I see an image of my testicles, and I see an image, and I understand semen. And I see a row of beings in sacs or eggs that needed to be fertilized. And I felt a merging of bonding or genetics. And I could feel this merging of genetics was a mathematical, biological, and spiritual event for the elder. It was something that she saw as sacred. She actually saw it as a sacred event. Merging genetics was for her a sacred event, and it created life. And they recognized the kind of the beauty or the power of that. I also felt love, caring, and compassion in the request. It wasn't something that she was forcing or trying to hypnotic me so I couldn't resist. It was something that she was basically saying, we need this from you, like kind of compassionately, we need this from you. It also felt very medical and devoid of sexuality, because there's no sense of sex from this being. It was very a medical procedure. And I got it. I was like, combined. So by also bringing up the Federation request or the Federation before this request, combined the request with an urgency of galactic importance. Now I felt that pressure. Then I also realized, wait, so that's also really important to these kind of higher level beings. So like this was necessary, and I had to make this sacrifice. I was responsible to make this decision. I also felt at the time it was a lasting way of helping the Federation. So I also knew that this request was regarding the next phase of our journey, but not today. Honestly, I don't know how I knew that, but I knew I wasn't going to be doing anything with my semen today. But it was like she was kind of telling me that the next phase of my journey they will need my semen. And then there was a message or command for the present. It was like that was done, still spinning, still going. Then it was like the present moment. And the request or the command was to withhold my semen presently, as in stop all sexual activity. I then saw an image of the energy in my spine rising, and my heart and head becoming illuminated. I could feel the me from the white room would become embodied and realized. This was the outline of how the rising would occur in my body. It would be created from stopping sexual activity, allowing my energy to rise. This process of connecting with the elder was mystical, and I felt great peace from the vision. Our closeness allowed me to feel her presence and her age. She would be equivalent to our 70 years old. She's like me interacting with a 70-year-old is what it was. And I witnessed a peaceful moment as I saw an image of the elder sitting outdoors at a table. It was like, this was the last thing she gave me amongst this whole thing, was her just sitting. It was almost like a picnic table or something. And it was like outside. It was like a peaceful moment. She wasn't doing anything. She wasn't even thinking. She was just existing. This is like, and this was the moment I was like staring in this space, and she was just existing in this image. Her old age gave me the feeling that she was content to just exist. Like, she didn't need to think. She didn't need to do things. Though she obviously had a role in her society, but there was this idea that like one of her favorite things to do was to sit and do nothing, to just exist, a sense of being. That's what it was. It was, I know there's a Buddhist concept like that, and in my Vedic concept, it's like that too, where there's a being state where you just exist and you don't try to think. And I really sometimes feel these beings are Buddhists by nature. They actually really understand those kind of deep principles of just existing and not having to convolute our minds with thinking a lot. That was it. That ended. It was all done. And that was the last instruction of the era. There wasn't even a goodbye. It was like, boom, done. I was sad. I was like, oh my God. Like, honestly, I was sad. I was like, listen, I'd grown on these ships. That's the thing. I'd grown on the ships. I'd grown on the ships, and I'd grown in my life at that time. So I was like, and as much as I was feeling, I was losing kind of contact with my friends and feeling like I was kind of needing to separate a little bit. I loved my life. I was a musician. I loved that these beings were interacting with me and growing me spiritually as I was living out my 20-year-old life. And I was sad. I was sad for it to end. And that was it. I was sad. There was nothing else. It was done. And then I was fired down. I'm back outside. I look up and there's no craft. I can feel there's no craft anymore. It's like she's moved away. And I go back to the car and I'm sad. And I pull a Yui here and drive back and head up my way, and then my mind's gone, or the memory's taken out. What I feel from this request when she's asking me for my semen is a couple of things I want to talk about here, which is, for me, these beings have no sexuality. In the third contact event, I talk about how it seems to me that the beings are detached from their bodies. They are spirit beings. They recognize their spiritual center, and then they're very moving their bodies and moving their spirits into other bodies. And they have a detached kind of attitude towards their bodies. And I think they think of us that way. Yet humans are highly attached to their bodies. We live our entire lives thinking we are our bodies and treating the spirit as an afterthought. And so it seems to me that when they start requesting or making these requests that are about our physical bodies, it maybe puts those two things into conflict. So I know this because of some previous experiences, but they think of me as my body as a plant. They kind of think of bodies like plants. They think of them like aspects of nature. And for a human to sexualize the process of these beings needing semen would be like us sexualizing picking apples from a fruit tree. It's the same thing. For them, we pick an apple. It is just a plant. And they think that way about us. They're taking seeds. They literally think they're taking seeds. And the body is just this. It's a tube. It's nature, though. For them, it's nature. It's an aspect of nature. And so I'm very aware that's how they saw that process. So because there will be semen extractions. And that's where the story, in the next chapter of this story, that's where it goes. And lastly, the Federation. I thought that was really powerful. Also, I'm certain I got talked about a Federation because I am shown literally other species who she says or they say are from the Federation. So I'm convinced that this is real, that the Greys are interacting with these other races that they consider as part of a grouping, that they work together, and that they kind of try to get shared agreements out of with each other. And so it seems to me that the work we were doing had more and more layers of complexity, and they revealed this information to me slowly. Yet most profound, they want us humans to belong to this Federation. And I thought that was really telling. However that occurs and what the methods are, I think is maybe up for understanding. But for me, it seems like that's where they're going with this, where they want us to kind of belong to a higher, to the group, to whatever this larger Federation group is. There was an impression that they were waiting patiently for us to catch up.